Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube. I've been asked to make a short video by a very good friend of mine on the use of hand saws and cutting straight, which is a problem my friend is having. So I said I would produce this video to show you basically how I, as a professional, would go about cutting to a good standard. In front of me I laid out, first of all, the timber that I want to cut. We've got a piece of oak there, which is quite a big section. Some smaller softwood sections, which is what I'll start with, and then a piece of 3:1 softwood as well. Cutting straight and square really isn't a big deal. What it does require is most of what's laid out here, and a bit of persistence. First of all, probably the most important tool is a square. I always use 90% of the time I use an engineer's square with 3 different sizes there. I do use from time to time a combination square, and now on site I find a combination square invaluable because you can use it as a marking gauge. If you want to cut off 90 degrees, you might need a 45-degree square or an adjustable bevel. Most importantly of all, you're going to need some kind of marking knife. Now I actually use a Veritas scribing knife. I like it because it's thin, it's got a double bevel so it doesn't matter which side of the square I use it. But a carving knife like that one is good. A scalpel is excellent, particularly for things like dovetails. You'll need some kind of measuring equipment, and sometimes you might need a pencil. From there, you're going to need a saw. Now, that is a very, very cheap saw from Axminster, made in the UK, made in Sheffield, by Flynn and Gaddick. This is what I would class as a dovetail saw because it's 10 inches. It's quite a fine tooth pattern, and this one is sharpened at the moment to a cross-cut pattern. This is a very old Spear and Jackson high quality saw, again made in Sheffield. This is actually would be classed as a carcass saw. It's not big enough to be a tenon saw. I like it, it's heavy. I had to put a new handle on it because the handle was smashed a bit. This is sharpened to a rip cut pattern, but as you'll see later, that doesn't really matter. And then for the bigger sections, I'd use a panel saw, and that's a fine tooth distant, again one I've restored. Lovely saw, quite small, quite short, which is shorter than I would normally use. I like a big, long, heavy saw, 26, even 28 inches on the hand saws. But that is a very nice saw, also sharpened rip pattern, and that is a £5.50 Spear and Jackson modern hardpoint saw, second fix saw, which is what you'd want for this finer stuff. A fair quality saw. This one was made in England, although I don't think they are now. Right, so to start with, let me clear some stuff away from up the bench so we can go through the basics. Oh, the other things I'm going to use are going to be a chisel of some description. These are very nice Ashley Isles chisels, but cheap chisels from Aldi or the likes will do you to get started. Right, first of all, I've got my piece of softwood and I want to cut a square cut and take out this knot on the end. So what I would do is take up probably the smallest square possible because it's easier to handle, and then the butt of my palm sits on the timber. I will have measured it to my length, for example, whatever my length wants to be. I then put the butt of my palm on the timber and 3 fingers over the back of the square. My thumb comes to my side of the timber and my index finger goes on the top of the blade. And that pinches the square nice and tight to the timber. I then pick up a marking knife, and with the square on the good side of the timber, so this will be the waist, so this is the waist here, I take my marking knife and I scribe a good line across there, like that. Nice and gentle to start with, and probably 3 or 4 good strong strokes after that. And that gives you a very pronounced line. Right. Then with my finger in the notch, with the knife in the notch, I do the same thing again and repeat the process. Okay, and you can do it down this side of the line as well. So, with that process done, I've got 3 sides marked. I need a hold fast, unfortunately, because I'm working on the top of this bench. No dogs available, so I actually find it easier to cross cut on sawhorses, but unfortunately there's none in the shop at the moment. I then take a wide chisel, which is a 2-inch, and I just gently ease out a section like that. So that gets me a perfect straight line with which to then place the body of the saw up against like that. Okay, let me just find a piece of waste timber to protect the bench top. Now, I don't use hooks on this bench, but that's what I would recommend though any new beginner to do. There's a lot of videos out there on making bench hooks. Right, now so I'm going to take the big carcass saw. Again, the hand sits with the palm flat on the timber, and my thumb comes up to the edge of the notch and guides the tip of the saw. And with a gentle stroke, start it off. Right, so that saw is now well started, so we haven't got to worry now about the straight across direction. We only have to worry about the vertical cut. So as we make the cut, we keep our eye on the line. And we ensure that saw is dropping straight through our piece of timber. Like that. Now we have a piece of timber that is good and square. Okay? Right. So if I was doing a wider piece, the layout would be exactly the same. Only I would have to use a wider square, obviously. Same thing again. Always put your square to the good side, because that means that your bruising is on your waste piece and you get that lovely crisp edge. Okay. Same thing again, only this time I'll use the smaller saw. Again, same thing, thumb up to it. Oh, hang on. Knife wall. Same thing again, mount the knife wall, just simply to give you a starting point. Clean that out. Right, and then the saw goes up against that wall. Makes the cut. Again, we end up with a lovely square end that's clean and tidy. Okay. It's exactly the same principle if I wanted to make the cut. Now this is a real nasty piece of, was actually a piece of railway sleeper that's been cut down for a job. So, what I'll do now is set it up exactly the same way. Nice square line. Oh, wandered off there. Good, straight, tidy line. And the same down. You don't need to cut your marks down both, just 2 sides generally does. Now I would, obviously that one, you can't really see when you're cutting, but this one you can, and this is the important one. You will get some deviation. It's good to put this line on, particularly when you're beginning, because you may get some deviation on this side, especially with wider pieces and with saws that don't have a back. Same process again, and it is very, very old oak, so it's a lot tougher. And you can use a mallet if you need to, just to clean out that line. And what I'm actually going to do with that one, because it is oak, I'm actually going to cut that line in again a little bit deeper. Clean a bit more waste out. Okay. Now this oak is very, very hard and very, very old, but that doesn't matter. You still cut it. Right, and for a comparison, I'm going to use the modern saw. So this is a half-point, a very cheap half-point saw. It's exactly the same process. The only difference is you're cutting a much wider section. Again, now that's starting now. So that angle will not change. So what we've got to do now is make sure we're cutting to our guidelines. And I would check on this one on both sides. You see now that's beginning to deviate just a little bit on that section. So what I'll do is with the back side of the saw out the curve, I would bring that one back into line and then continue the cut. And just keep checking. Here we go. It's not about speed, but accuracy. One of the most important things you can do is use the actual full stroke of the saw. There's no need to force the saw. A nice, gentle guide and let the weight of the saw do the cutting. Because that way you're going to get far, far more accurate cut. Keep checking that other side, and I'm following the line. I'm just half a millimetre off the line, but I am still following the line. And I'm absolutely bang on it on this side. Just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. And eventually you'll get through. And hopefully what you'll have is a beautiful, flat, square on all angles surface. And really, that is all there is to it. It's all about the setup of the line, and then just gently taking your time to saw down to the line. A cross-cutting, really, there is no more to it. Accurate placement, using the square, using the knife, is always going to give you that perfectly square result. Now that is probably as good as my chop saw. Certainly, if I was out and I was framing a house, or I was doing a project, I was making a building or something like that, that would actually be excessively good. You know, a lot of framers you see out there, I use the saw, but actually these saws, they're good, but you'll never ever be a good square. But for framing, or for fencing or anything, that's more than good enough. If you are doing workshop work, I advise buy at least one square. If you can only afford one, buy yourself a good quality combination square, a Stanley for example. But check it, make sure when you use it, when you do it, it's square to both sides. So you set it on your bench or a square piece of plywood, and you draw a line and you flip it over. And if that line meets up again, you know that square is square. Really, other than that, guys, there's very, very, very little to it. There's no need to panic about sawing, about quality saws. That saw was £5, £5.50 I think. And as you've seen, that's cut quality. That saw, I think, was £37, and I brought it because at the time, the dovetail saw I had actually had been left in my toolbox in my storage containers, and the condensation had actually made the blade go rusty here, and I hadn't got time to clean it off, sharpen it, so I went out and brought that one. This one is a saw I was given by my uncle, and it is actually a lovely saw now. It's missing 1 or 2 teeth, but it's a good saw. And now I've cleaned it up, sharpened it and set it. It's probably the best back saw that I own because of the size. As I said to you before, I like a big saw, I'm quite a tall guy, and I like to use a long stroke because that is the most efficient way. If anybody's got any queries or anything they'd like to see, this is only my 2nd ever YouTube video, so I apologise for the quality, but at the moment my technology consists of my iPhone actually double-sided taped to a piece of timber clamped to the table saw to get you this angle. So guys, if you want to know any more, then please contact, leave me a message on the YouTube comments, and I'll see what I can do. I'm not promising anything. I'm going to be doing a series of videos as time allows for a friend, which I am going to upload to YouTube, so my friend can come back in and pick through these videos whenever they want, and they're always there then. If I just send them to her, if she loses one, she's going to struggle with it. But at least if they're on YouTube, you can always come back to them. And from me, that's it, over and out. Thank you very much. Goodbye.